Hey guys, so congrats on getting your first buyer. I want to walk you through some of the steps on the contract and go into detail on what some of these mean. The point of this video is I want to help you avoid some of those hurdles, and we're going to do that with language of how we present things and how we explain things. So we want to make this as smooth as we can for your client, make sure they have the best experience possible, and a lot of that is done with you as the agent, especially on the buying side. A lot of times this is going to be their first time, so they are leaning on you completely. They are trusting you. I want to make sure you have the right verbiage to get through this contract and then explain it in a way that they understand, and that's going to make your job easier in the long run. First, you'll stop with Sarah Parita. She'll give you the rundown on zip forms as well as SkySlope. That's where we're going to go to build out the contract and then send it for digital signatures. Once you're all set up there, we'll jump into zip forms. I want to start with the contract and kind of go step by step and explain some of the downfalls that we could run into. Okay, so we're going to use a 1 to 4 family resale. Unless we're dealing with new construction, that'll have a similar but different contract that is a new construction Texas contract. But your most common is going to be your 1 to 4 family resale, so we'll start there. Paragraph 1, parties, of course, this is easy. You're going to put your client's name on the buyer side. Always good to check with your clients before. I do it in a friendly way. Hey, if you'll text over your name the way it's spelled. A lot of times people use their middle name. We want to make sure it's correct first, so double check with your clients on the offer. Also don't want to misspell your client's name as you're sending them an offer. So just a good little piece of advice, have them shoot, hey, let me know how you like your name spelled so I don't mess it up. Okay, so paragraph 2, this is labeled properties, but what it is the legal description. And what that is, you're going to go to our Lubbock Central Appraisal District website, which is lubbockcad.org. That's our CAD, so that'll have this information. What you're going to do is you're going to search the address that y'all are submitting the offer on. It'll have the seller's name, and then you'll drop down to legal description, and we're going to post that in this portion of the contract. What this is, it's how they identify the property on the deed, but where you're going to get that from is the Central Appraisal District website. Next, of course, is going to be really important. Paragraph 3 is going to be your sales price. Typically, there are some oddities, but typically you're going to be dealing with an FHA or conventional contract or offer. So what that is, and of course the difference is FHA is going to be 3.5% down, conventional is going to be 5%. The way I sell this to clients is even if they're putting 20% down, I say, hey, we're going to write this at 5% down. So with that, this is an outline. When they get with the lender and they decide they want to put 10%, 15% down, that's changed. You don't need the seller's approval. So knowing your 3.5% and 5% is really important here. But that's where we're getting our sales price. You'll notice there's a cash portion, finance portion, and that total should be your offer price. Next, really important paragraph that you're going to use a lot is paragraph 5. This is the earnest money, and with the contract update, you're also going to have your option period in this paragraph as well. So you'll see our preferred title company is going to be Service Title at the Loop with Brent Noble or Todd Timberlake. They take care of us really, really well. Those are our preferred. With a lot of vendors, we don't push to, there's some we push for, but the main one to make sure you're going to have a smooth transaction, Service Title is really important. Of course, if it gets the deal done, we'll do it somewhere else, but Service Title is preferred. With this, like 1% is typical for your earnest money, $200,000 house, $2,000 earnest money is where you're going to fill into the form there, as well as Service Title in the address. Now the update is the option money. This is $100, and then in paragraph 5B, you'll put in a 10-day period. This is most typical. Now, of course, this is a negotiated term. Sometimes we can get a 14-day option period. If we want to make our offer stronger, we may shorten it down to 5-7 days or no option period at all. Makes the offer a lot stronger. But your most typical is going to be $100 for a 10-day option. And the way I explain that to clients is this $100 buys insurance for the earnest money. So it's a lot better to find our problems up front. A lot of our work is going to be done in these 10 days. And what I mean by that is we're going to send Doug the inspector in that 10 days. We're going to negotiate a repair. So if we run into something insurmountable, and most things are not insurmountable. If it's foundation work that's going to cost $10,000, $15,000 to fix, your people don't have the money. Well, here's an example of when we would use that option. And the thing to make very, very clear with your clients is if we option out, the $100 is gone. Now, the only thing, we're going to get earnest money back minus the cost of inspection, which if you run into the hurdle, they think the seller should pay for that since it's something there's a problem with the property. The way I explain that to them, kind of put that heartburn to rest, is I tell them, look guys, we really dodged a bullet here. If Doug, I'm happy to spend the $350 with Doug to save us the $10,000 repair. It's all about not making, we want to be mad at the situation, not a certain person. It's not Doug's fault that something went wrong with the property. What we want to focus on is, hey, we just dodged a bullet to pay $350, get the rest of our money back. I'm really excited about that way we can go find the next property that's going to work perfect for you. So you spin it as a positive rather than a negative if you do have to use this option period. Okay, so next paragraph is going to be paragraph 6. This is the title policy. So what is a title policy? Similar to, say, selling a car, it's just conveying a clear title, saying, hey, there's no liens, there's no clouds on this title. And the way that's done is through a title search through a company like a Service Title to ensure that as it's passed to your buyer, the next owner, that they're not going to have anything come up, liens or anything weird like that. This is typically a seller paid expense every time. And sometimes buyers will negotiate it or sellers will want to negotiate it if you're on the other side. The simple phrase I use to explain this to clients is, hey, this is a seller paid expense. It was paid for you when you purchased the house, and it's a normal expense that is paid through when you sell your house, and this is included in the seller's closing costs. Staying in paragraph 6, I want to drop down to subsection C, which is the survey. This is a really, really important part and something I really want to coach you guys on, because there's been a lot of times, even me personally, where not understanding these 3 options in this paragraph sometimes will cost the agent money, and I know you're working hard for your money. I don't want you giving any up. So an understanding of this paragraph is going to go a really, really long way. So let's dive in, because there's some intricate details that I want to go through. So in survey, we have 3 options. We have option 1, 2, and 3. With that, typically what I use majority of the time, unless I know there's not a survey or there is a survey, I use box 1. And what this reads, and this is really important, the way this reads is, if you have a certain number of days for the seller to provide a survey, and then at the bottom of the paragraph you have options. It's a seller or buyer expense. So what I always do is I put it as a buyer expense, and I put 5 days in the day period. Now, the way that reads is the seller has 5 days to provide a survey that is acceptable or not acceptable to the lender. They just have to provide one. Hypothetically, if they provide a survey and they've added a huge shop back there, and the lending company says, no, it's changed since then, they've added a shop, you have to get it resurveyed, this will then default to the latter part of that paragraph to where it's a buyer or seller's expense. Now, where this plays to your people's benefit, if the sellers purchased the house a couple years back, they had a survey on file, we're able to use that. That's going to save your buyer $300 to $500 on their closing costs, which they'll be super excited about. So that's box 1. Jumping down to box 2 is going to be buyer paid. So for example, if we're looking at a new construction house, there's not a survey on there because a builder will do a land survey, but not a survey with the structure on there. So with that, it's very, very important. Buyer paid survey, if we walk into something knowing, hey, there's not a survey, I jump the hurdle first. I don't want to get my buyers' hopes up thinking that they're going to save $300 to $500. I let them know from the start, hey guys, there's not a survey. It's something the lender requires, so we're going to go ahead and get that taken care of. But, and here's the key piece, it's already accounted for in the estimate they give you for closing costs. And I tell them, I make it very clear when I explain this, because some people, you don't want them to get hung up on a negotiation of $300 to $500 when we're talking about a $250,000 house. So this is just explained, hey, the disclosures or the estimates that your mortgage company gave to you for closing costs, they assume that we're going to get a survey. So if there is one, it's a little bonus. We get to save some money, but it is a buyer's cost typically. Now negotiated, which brings us to our 3rd piece of this survey paragraph, which is seller paid. So let's say we're offering giving them a really great offer. It's coming in strong, but this is just, we're requesting seller purchase a survey. It happens a lot of times, and having good rapport with that agent will help you lead to which one of these boxes is going to work best for you. Okay, so next let's jump down to paragraph 7. This is the property condition section of the contract. And with this, we're going to drop down to subsection B and explain what this means. So you'll have your seller's disclosure notice. Now, of course, we're on the buying side here. The seller is going to provide a seller's disclosure notice. The way I explain this to my buyers, I tell them, hey, this is a seller filled out document. It has what the house is what is equipped with, excuse me. It has also in there claims they've made, insurance claim, just a general, hey, here's some things to know about the house. For your purposes in the contract, you'll see in section 2, you have a number of days you can put in here. And this is important to make sure that we are hitting it. So let's say, for example, in my preset, we have 3 days to provide notice of seller's disclosure. This says once this contract is effective, we have everyone's signature on it, the time starts. They have 3 days to send that seller's disclosure notice over to you. So as the buyer's agent, keep an eye on that because your buyers will have to sign on it. If we're on the other side, which we'll get into more depth on the seller's agent, this is something we want to make sure we achieve in those 3 days. Now there is another option there in the contract, paragraph 7.1, that has received notice. So typically, when you're getting ready to submit an offer, you do your call to the agent. If they send the seller's disclosure notice over to you, you'll use this other box just saying we've already received it, so we don't have to track this 3-5 days in paragraph 2. The next major piece I want to talk to y'all on, I think it'll help a lot, help you jump this hurdle if we can get in front of it before the buyers read it. This is really why it's important to get on the phone with your buyer and have this call and go through the contract with you, because they'll start to build stories or get upset about things that are no big deal. So explaining the contract to them will give you an opportunity to jump in front of these trains before they come and hit you. And what I have found is one of the biggest ones that scares people but is really not a scary piece at all is section 7D, which is the acceptance of property condition. Now this is a really confusing one because there is a box in here that buyer accepts property as is, which could be very, very scary for a first-time buyer. They don't know what they're stepping into. They think, hey, we're accepting it with all its problems. We're not going to get to negotiate. Not true, and I make it very, very clear. I want to jump on a call and explain this section with them because it reads, buyer accepts property as is, but it's important to go to the paragraph right above it. And in that it says, this does not preclude buyers from inspecting the property and negotiating repairs, which is important for a new buyer to understand. This simply says we're not submitting this contract contingent upon repairs. For example, if you were looking at a house and it's known that it's going to need a new HVAC unit and you decide, hey, we're going to offer $200,000, but we want them to put a new HVAC unit in it prior, we're going to use the second box and we'll put in there seller to install new HVAC unit. But for a buyer, it's going to be a really, really scary thing, and you're going to have to it's a lot easier to get in front of this hurdle before rather than just reading through it. Yes, it says accepts property as is, but that's not contingent upon repairs. They are still fully able to do their inspection and negotiate. So staying in paragraph 7, let's drop down to subsection H. So this is a really important one to touch on with your folks before submitting the offer so they know what's going on, because there's a charge in here. Residential service contract, what does that mean? Simply, it's a home warranty. And this piece right here, the key thing to tell your folks is this is a credit to them, not a charge. Now this is a very, very important piece to hit on because we want to let them know this is going to cover their HVAC, it's going to cover their hot water heaters, and in the end takes a lot of that liability away from you. It's going to happen. In your career, this is going to happen. You're going to have someone call you 3 weeks after you close, their hot water heater went out. This is where we point them, and this is also why it's very, very important to negotiate in the contract. For me personally, I like to use Earls. It's a local company. In the past, they've taken care of clients really well. This is an option for the buyer to choose, and this will go through Sarah. She will order it, but this is an important piece to explain to your folks. This is a seller-paid concession and will cover the major appliances for the first year of them owning it. Okay, jumping down to paragraph 9, really important one here is closing date. So this is typically at minimum, if you have financing involved, is going to be a quick turnaround, is going to be 30 days. It's really important to chat with the loan officer, call Aaron Garrett, ask them, hey, if I put a 30-day close on this 35-day close, can you get it done in time? That's jumping in front of a bullet that you may have down the road of needing an extension. If you can jump in front of that, set the expectation early, typically goes a lot smoother. Where this can play to our advantage, if you have a client who, say, is buying an investment or just buying cash for themselves, this is a really, really great spot to make the contract better for the seller, more enticing, give you a better chance of getting it accepted. Cash can close a lot quicker, it doesn't involve appraisal. It just moves a lot quicker all around. You don't have the red tape of the mortgage company. So if we have a cash deal and we make this a 2-week close, 14 days, that's going to be more appealing and maybe a tactic we can use to win a multiple offer situation. Okay, let's drop down one more paragraph to paragraph 10. And this talks on possession, and this may seem like an easy one to breeze over, but one important thing, I want to save you a lot of heartache. The box that is always checked is it's going to change hands upon closing and funding. Where is that going to be applicable for us? Let's say we close on a Friday at 4:30. We need to make sure that we have all of this taken care of, because those funds will not be wired and funded on that Friday, which will then carry to Monday. So if your folks' expectation is to move in that weekend, we need to make sure we have this outlined with either a temporary lease, but it is important to know that it does not change possession until funds are distributed. The next section is paragraph 11. Now this is tricky. You learn in school you're not supposed to add anything but clear statements in this. What we use this for is I overstate what's already in the contract and adds a little bit of peace of mind for the buyer, considering we want to make this as smooth as possible. What I add in there is roof must be insurable by insurance of buyer's choice. What does that mean? The big thing that people are going to be worried about is that roof good when they get in there. You can let them know, hey, this is a non-issue, we're going to take care of it. If it is bad, we're going to start a claim, either get it replaced or get the repairs done to make it insurable. And this is just an overstatement. It is in the contract, but we overstate to make our buyers feel comfortable here. So settlement and other expensive, this is paragraph 12, it's up next. What does this mean? In short, layman terms, this is seller paid closing costs. So knowing this from the buyer side, this is going to directly impact their cash to close. If Aaron has estimated it at, let's say, round numbers, $10,000, and we throw a $5,000 concession here, that reduces their cash to close. That's important from the buying side. If you look at it from the other perspective, which we can get into more, the selling side, this is just simple negotiations. It doesn't matter to a seller if you offer them $150 or if you offer them $155 with $5,000 back in closing. To the seller, it's the same to their pocket, which is important to know when we're negotiating. If we're in a multiple offer situation, this weakens the offer as it just lowers the cash to pocket to the seller. Okay, paragraph 13. We'll hit this one quick, but it's important to know because you may get this question thrown at you. I want you to be able to handle it. Prorations, what this talks about. There's a couple ways. One, tax proration. This is going to be given as a credit. So if your person closes on May 1st, they're not going to be responsible from January 1 to May 1. They're not responsible for those taxes as they didn't own the property in that period. This is prorated and will be given to a credit on the closing statement. So second place this is going to be used is if we're selling investment properties, a duplex type, prorations are going to be very important. You have prorated rent, prorated taxes, as well as deposits need to be transferred as well. So all of that, if you're selling an investment, let them know, hey, it's done on a per diem. If you close on the 15th, it's the middle of the month, they divide out what that rent was for 30 days, and then they will be credited half of that month's rent on the closing statement. So paragraph 22 is where we're going to jump down to next. This is more for you as the agent. This is everything we're going to have attached in this offer. So our third-party financing addendum is applicable a lot of the times. Second, if you have a contingency tied to this, an appraisal addendum, all of this just tacks on. This is where it shows, hey, here's everything that's included in the offer. That's more for you as the agent more than the client. Okay, to complete the offer, and there's financing involved, we're going to add the third-party finance addendum. Let me walk you through there and how to explain that to the client. This one's a lot easier, but it's going to be included in the offer, so I want to go over it with you. You'll see different types of financing, conventional, FHA, VA. You're going to select on page 1 which you're using. This is important to know the down payment situation. 3.5% for FHA, 5% for conventional, and sometimes VA is going to be a little bit different. Sometimes you can get them in $0 down. So that's important to note here. Again, these are all outlines. You'll fill this in, but the important piece to know there is this can get adjusted on the back end with the lender. You don't need the seller's approval. So these are outlines. So the important piece of this, if you are doing FHA or VA, the next paragraph we want to notice is paragraph 4. This is going to be your appraisal protection. So if we have a sales price of $200,000, in paragraph 4, we're going to add $200,000. What this does is covers them on appraisal. If the appraisal comes in short, let's say it's $195,000, of course, the mortgage company isn't going to lend more than the appraised value, which then opens to renegotiations, but this is a protection for your buyers, if it doesn't hit appraisal, it offers them the opportunity to renegotiate. Okay guys, that hits all the big items for submitting an offer. That's your 1-to-4 contract as well as your third-party financing item. This should hit a lot of the generic questions. Of course, real estate is never the same, so you may have a different situation. We're always here to help. You can grab me or Brandon. We'd love to work through this with you, but this should get you through the basics of submitting that first offer.